G'day there guys, it's your main boy Markee, and welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge. Chuck a prawn on the barbie and get ready to get fired up. Get me fired? Say goodbye to your bonus and promotion. This happened a good long while ago. I was in high school and got a job at one of the big box stores in the computer department. This store chain had an in-house technician department, which was always where I wanted to go. After busting my butt in sales for 2 years, putting up with rude customers and silly rules and all the other glorious trappings of a retail job, I finally got the chance to be promoted to the technician department. It was not as glamorous as I thought it would be. I quickly found out that most of the repairs consisted of running the pre-packaged antivirus suite, updating Windows, and doing data backups prior to wiping computers clean and reinstalling them. I always liked tinkering with hardware more, but since 80% of customers had laptops and those repairs were deemed too complicated by corporate, we would just send the laptops out to get repaired by the third-party vendor. This was still better than sales by a long shot, and we had a great team working in the technician area, especially for one dude. Let's call him Mike. He always behaved like his crap smelled like roses. He was technically a lead technician, and even though that just meant he had a little bit more authority, he had access to a corporate account to make and arrange shipments of computers to and from our store. He was acting like he was the manager of the department. Nevertheless, our actual manager was a splendid dude that took care of us and such. Mike's douchery did not bother any of us that much. Fast forward a little, and our awesome manager found a much better job. This opened up a spot for manager, and since the whole store supervision was going through a shake-up, the general manager was fired for embezzlement, and all the people he hired, 90% of the managers, were under review. This led to everybody trying their hardest not to freak up, and the new general manager decided that since our department was one of the best in the district, he would not try to hire an outsider, but will promote from within. Now, Mike was working at this store for almost 10 years at that point, and a couple of people started working with him as sales associates were by this point managers and assistant managers. One of them, Brittany, was an assistant manager in charge of customer services and checkout. One of the conditions for Mike's official promotion to manager was to keep the #1 spot in the district performance-wise. One of the key metrics was the rejection rate from our third-party vendor. If we mistakenly sent them a software problem to fix, they would charge us extra. Mike started obsessing about the numbers, especially when it came to the rejection rate. He insisted that he would spend extra time to confirm issues, even when there were recalls from manufacturers for these items. I hated this bureaucracy, since it meant that people needed to wait almost the maximum allowed time to get their computers back. So a few times I skipped the extra diagnostics when I knew for sure the problem was hardware. One day, Mike decided to do an audit on all outgoing machines and found that I've sent 4 units skipping his extra checks. He told me that he'll write me up for it, but when he tried, the general manager told him that he's not a manager yet, and I have shown that the general manager that I followed the corporate procedure in diagnosing these units. I thought that that was the end of this, but I was sorely mistaken. Mike hated that I showed to general manager that Mike's procedure was inefficient and that he was denied power over me. About a month later, I got a call from Mike asking if I could come to the store on my day off because there was an issue with a customer. When I came in, I was greeted by Mike with a crap-eating grin, and he told me to wait in the back and not to work on any computers. After about an hour, Mike and Brittany come over in and ask me to head to the front office. They start an official write-up process and claimed that I had made a mistake creating a backup of customers' data and have placed a DVD with no data on it into the box that was returned to the customer and then wiped his PC clean. I knew that it was bullcrap, since I always copy the data to an external hard drive, run antivirus to make sure that nothing bad got copied, and then burn the DVDs. Yet, when I asked to check the external hard drive, Mike said that due to my negligence, I was not allowed back in the tech area. He went to check the hard drive and said there was nothing on it. At that point, I knew he was bullcrapping, but him and Brittany were hell-bent on completing the write-up. I have asked for a senior management to be present and was shot down again. Turns out GM was on vacation. They completed the write-up and told me that due to an egregious error that cost the company tens of thousands of dollars, I was not allowed to work in the tech room and I would be relegated back to the sales floor. I told them to shove it and submitted my resignation on the spot. I later found out a week later they gave the customer the data that was on the hard drive all this time. Mike simply erased the DVDs. I grabbed a DVD of RW by mistake for that backup and waited for the customer to come back and complain. I have also called the corporate HR line and told them what happened. They said that since I quit with a letter of resignation, that they would not launch an investigation, but they have received and recorded my complaints. Through luck and the fact that I was a good hardware tech, I landed a job at a shop that did hardware repairs a week later and started in another week. Turns out, this depot was the service center that covered the entire district, and they had the master contract with the big box chain where I worked. Since I have worked at the tech in that store, I was more than familiar with their labeling and ticketing system. For tracking purposes, the label included the store and technician number. After a couple of weeks, I gathered some goodwill at my new job and started trading the units with my colleagues to work on as many units as my old store as possible. Over the next 3 months, I made sure that every single unit sent in by Mike would come back in with an extra charge. Also, it turned out that Mike, since he was in charge of shipping, would sometimes steal other technicians' tickets to boost his personal performance numbers to secure that management position. Well, that bit him in the butt hard. There was one week in particular when he sent in over 15 units out of 20 to get fixed, and 15 units came back with extra software charge. I have also kept detailed records that proved that Mike did not follow his own policy of extra checks. So, when the performance figures came out for that quarter, that store crashed into 5th place from number 1. Mike missed out on his promotion and a big bonus that was promised to him. A good buddy of mine from the store got the management position a few months after, and I have explained to him how to reduce the number of software changes to almost 0, so he looked like a superstar. Mike was first relocated to lead technician, then he was either let go or he quit. I'm not sure. Last I heard, he started his own mobile technician business that folded after a year. What I didn't know is that this whole incident with Mike fudging up led to the GM to review everything Mike did, including my write-up and dismissal. As it turns out, they did not even register the write-up since I quit on the spot, and they in fact buried it. The only way GM was able to find it is because of the HR complaint that was filed against both Mike and Brittany. GM was not pleased, as they went behind his back to get rid of someone and fired Brittany. He was a very decent man who called me later that day and apologized, and even offered me my old job back. I thanked him, but I was making more money at the new place and did not have to deal with customers, so I passed. And lastly, scam me for $80 for cleaning on move out? I don't think so, Jack. Background. About 10 years ago my landlord died, or at least the person who owned the place we were renting. The property management had been delightful, but whoever inherited wanted to sell, so the house was for sale. Enter a jerk, we'll call him Jack, who decides to buy the place. Now, ours was the top floor, i.e. attic converted into a suite of a house less than 35 square meters, or 375 square feet. The bathroom was literally where the stairs up to the top floor used to be. The place was tiny. Jack came to check out the place, as you should before buying a place. He had one of those Bluetooth earpieces in, and I can't even remember if he even acknowledged us. He spent about 30 to 45 seconds in our suite. Next time we hear from him is about a month later. Apparently he'd bought the place. He stops by to give us a notice of rent increase, effective in 6 months, which is the legal minimum, from $485 to $795. The place is not worth that much. We say nuts to that and decide to buy a house, since what the hell, it's not much more per month. Surprise to anyone who's ever bought a house, it was more than just mortgage payments. We give him all the required notice to move out. We move and clean the place up really well. Mind you, when my partner moved in, it was not especially clean. And we happen to have the move-in inspection which mentions this. Jack decided to try and scam us for $80 for our damage deposit for cleaning. He does not provide the required forms, just says, "I'm gonna hold $80 from your damage deposit for cleaning." We responded with, no you're not." Jack, assuming we need the cash for our next damage deposit or bills, and will settle for anything. "Take this, I'm gonna keep the whole deposit." Cue revenge. So he just decides to keep the whole deposit, which is $485. I file paperwork with the rentalsmen who, unsurprisingly, after their investigation, rule in my favor. He's ordered to refund the whole deposit, but Jack decides not to pay, and the rentalsman doesn't have any enforcement powers. So I have to go to the local sheriff's office. They can send a legal demand letter for the deposit plus costs, but it'll cost me $100 to $150. I forget, up front. Sure, go ahead. Jack decides to ignore the sheriff's kindly letter. Sheriffs say that they can start the proceedings to recover the debt plus costs, but again, I have to pay an upfront of about $250, and it might take a while. I guess most people quit at this point, but being out of pocket up to $700, throwing more money at the problem and maybe having to wait months didn't appeal to them. And there's also a chance you never collect. I chose to pay the sheriffs. They sent another, less friendly letter to Jack, but here's the best part. Now that they're recovering a debt, they're going to recover on all of the outstanding judgments against him. And apparently, he's tried this crap before. They send him another couple of letters, pay up or else. Jack chose else. Then they seized title to Jack's giant white SUV. I can't remember what it was, but it was not a cheap one. They didn't physically take it away or anything, but they gave him 30 days to pay on all judgments against him, or they would take it and sell it at auction. Somehow, he all of a sudden found the money. My share is $485 plus $150 plus $250, which is $885. The other people who'd registered judgments, but not paid to start the collection processes, were about $5,000 more. I can't remember how long the whole process took, at least 6 months though. Jesus. If you guys had been scammed before, tell me about this in the comments. What did you guys do to get back to them? I'd love to hear from you guys. As well, if there's anything you want to hear from me, anything at all, tell me. I want to hear from you. I'm not going to go full James. Don't worry. Hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.